What's going on, guys? Welcome back to WWE Network and Chill, where I, Graham G.S. and Matthews, break down all the original content I watch on the WWE Network. Hopefully you guys enjoyed SummerSlam weekend. TakeOver was great. I'm recording this before SummerSlam on Sunday, so I have no idea how good SummerSlam was on Sunday night. But today we are talking WWE Chronicle, the Seth Rollins episode that aired after TakeOver on Saturday night. As always, these Chronicle editions, they take place from after one pay-per-view up until the most recent one. However, this one was a bit different. I expected this to take place largely from Extreme Rules last month up until SummerSlam this past weekend, focusing on Rollins' pursuit of getting back the Universal Championship. But I was pleasantly surprised to find out that this episode of Chronicle actually dates back a bit further, until Stomping Grounds. And now they do show the footage to kick off Chronicle of Rollins losing the Universal Championship in the main event of Extreme Rules to Brock Lesnar when he cashed in the briefcase. But it does go back a bit before that to when Rollins was, right after Stomping Grounds, to when Rollins and Becky Lynch were first paired up on TV. So he talked about how the last couple months of his career as Universal Champion have been the busiest few months of his career. And he also talked about how he could have never imagined getting to where he is right now as a kid. Now, he always imagined himself main eventing WrestleMania, but he never knew anything or all the things that would come with it, including opening up his own coffee shop, meeting the love of his life, talking about Becky Lynch, who he does go in depth with on this episode of Chronicle, talking about how they met and all that other stuff, which is really cool to hear about. More on that momentarily. But he talked about how he never imagined how getting to where he is today would encompass all the stuff that it has, including, again, like I said, opening up his own coffee shop, meeting the love of his life, doing this, making the towns, being busy, doing the media. He could have never have imagined that 20, 30 years ago when he first, dreamed of getting into the business. So we come back to the ending of Stomping Grounds. When Rollins and Becky come backstage, we're shown the ending of the pay-per-view when Lynch saved Seth from Baron Corbin and Lacey Evans at the main event of that pay-per-view, helping Rollins retain his Universal Championship in the process. Both Seth and Becky said that the ending to Stomping Grounds, they both thought that the ending to that pay-per-view was awesome. They thought it was great. Other people didn't exactly agree. I thought it was cool to see them interacting on TV, but WWE shoved their relationship down our throats so badly during the course of that time. And even before that, too, even before they were paired up on TV, because the news broke that they were together maybe in late April, early May. I mean, people had known well before that, but WWE didn't make it public until that point. And they were shoving it down our throats every fucking week on the television show. But they thought the ending to Stomping Grounds was awesome, and that's really all that matters. So Rollins talks about their relationship, and again, we've known that they were together for a while now, but we don't really know much about their relationship. We just know that they're together currently. So it was cool to hear the behind-the-scenes of sorts of how they came to be, how the Becky Lynch-Seth Rollins relationship came to be. So apparently they said no to a relationship from the get-go. At first, they were like, no, this isn't happening. We work together. There's no way this will turn into an official thing. Sure enough, it did. They hung out anyway, and they got over that within weeks. They were like, why were we ever worried about, dating officially? Despite the fact that we're dating, who cares? So they got over that very quickly, and he said that these have been the best 6 months relationship-wise that he's ever had, which is really cool to hear, and I'm glad that he's happy. He also talked about how the fact that they're on the same level made the on-air relationship, the on-air pairing between the two, very interesting for both of them. Because it's not like it's Seth Rollins and his girlfriend Becky Lynch. If anything, it was the other way around. Because Rollins was wearing the whole, I'm the man's man t-shirt, which I thought was fucking stupid. I don't know why anyone would even bother buying that shit. But it wasn't like, it's not like Becky's not a wrestler, or it's not like Seth is the world champion, and then Becky Lynch is just someone else on the show. Like Lana and Rusev, I think is a great, example of that. Rusev, not to say that he's a world champion, but, he was higher up in the pecking order a couple years ago. And I mean, again, it was a little different in the beginning because they had the manager-wrestler combo going for them. But, like, in the ring, Lana fucking sucked. And she still sucks. But, I mean, when they first started teaming up in the ring, they were never any good. So it was a bit of a disconnect, whereas with Rollins and Lynch, they're both top-tier talents. Rollins, at this point, was still the Universal Champion. Becky, even now, and at that point, was the Raw Women's Champion. So they were at the top of the respective divisions. So it wasn't like a weird thing seeing them on the same team. It wasn't like, oh, one's a threat and one's like the weak link of the team. They were on the same page. They were on the same level and still are now. So it was really cool to see that on WWE TV, and I'm glad they recognized that here too. They said that initially they had a lot of support from people online. Now, not everyone's going to be positive, and I completely understand where people are coming from now, where they're saying, oh, WWE shoving it down our throats, because they have, and I've said that, many other people have said that. It doesn't mean that we're not happy that they're together. I'm very happy they're a happy couple. I think that's awesome. They kind of feel like a couple that you would ship, and I fucking hate that I even just said that, but like, if you've heard that phrase before, oh, I ship those two, as in, like, I would love to see them in a relationship because they're a good fit for each other. I feel like that's the case with Becky and Rollins. And anyone who doesn't feel that way, now again, you're entitled to your own opinion. But if you hate the fact that these two are together, and you hate the fact that they're happy together, then fuck you. You're probably miserable yourself. But anyway, moving on. He feels like he was never supposed to be here. He was just a small boy from a small town in Iowa, Davenport, Iowa, I believe he's from. He feels like he was never supposed to be here, but he is. And inspiring people and giving them the idea that if he can be here, then they can too. That's what keeps him going. Inspiring people is what keeps him going every single day and keeps him moving forward in the WWE. He also says being a WWE superstar is one of the most amazing experiences I could have ever asked for. So he's obviously very grateful being a superstar, but he also recognizes that it comes with a lot of other things too. Like it causes his life to be busier than it's ever been, ever, like combined. He lives a pretty crazy lifestyle. But on this episode of Chronicle, he does visit his own coffee shop in Iowa. I've never been to Iowa, but it'd be cool to go to Iowa. I don't know what else is in Iowa, but it would be cool to go there just to check out the coffee shop. So he has some espresso coffee there. He talks about why he wanted to start one up because I guess there wasn't one in the area. So he's like, hey, fuck it, I'll start my own coffee shop. Anyway, so we get back to WWE life here. He says that Becky puts a lot of thought into everything she does, and, he admires that about her. He also says that it's a lot of fun being out there with her, and that they kind of click and just doing their stuff in the ring. She kind of saves his ass more often than not. So they're doing their thing out there. They're having fun, which is cool. He also talks about how he and Becky have been scrutinized by the fans during this period in time where they've been brought together on TV. And that, it's he calls it rotten. That's the word that he uses, rotten. The fact that they can criticize his relationship. Dude, that's the fucking shit you have to deal with when your relationship is brought into the public eye. Not saying that it's right, but I'm just saying that people saying that, they've been shoved down our throats, like I talked about earlier, are completely in the right, because it has been, and I'm sure they would agree. He's not going to say that fucking here, because it's a WWE produced show. But I know Becky's been sarcastic about that in interviews, saying that, they definitely have made it very apparent that we're a couple, and I don't like that. And I do agree that they should be doing their own thing. And I don't like the hate that they get, Becky and Seth, but I also see the other side of it where I can completely understand why a fan would be, annoyed by how they're constantly on TV and they're constantly talking about the relationship. It can be just a lot. So anyway, going back to what I was saying earlier, he didn't anticipate that, he said. He did not anticipate the hate that they would get and this scrutinization. I don't even think that's a word, but all the criticism, I guess is the right word to use here, that they would receive for their relationship going public on TV and really being incorporated into a storyline. Anyway, Rollins arrives at Extreme Rules for the mixed tag team title match in the main event with him and Lynch versus Lacey Evans and Baron Corbin. He runs into Michael Hayes backstage, who calls his gear, before the show in front of the ring. Michael Hayes called his black and yellow gear a bumblebee, that's exactly what it was. He did that on purpose, though, so he can match with Becky, which was kind of cute. Rollins said that he was very disappointed with how the Universal Championship was handled before WrestleMania. Now, again, I know he's talking in character here. He's talking in storyline. I'm sure he actually feels that way. But, again, part of it might be Brock's fault because the guy doesn't want to show up. But also, honestly, part of it goes to WWE. This is partially their fault, too. Because if they wanted to have Brock show up more, then he would show up more. And if he didn't want to, you take the fucking championship off of him. So they were the ones who decided to put the championship on him. I know he's obviously not going to bash his employer here, but you got to realize part of the blame, if not most of the blame, goes to WWE for putting the belt back on Brock Lesnar in the first place. And that's exactly what happened here. He thinks the champion should be always traveling, and they should always be on the road, and I completely agree with that. He hated how things went down at Extreme Rules, losing the championship. But then you also got to realize, if Seth was such a hot champion and he was having such a good reign, I feel like they would have never taken the championship off of him to begin with. Not saying that Seth is entirely to blame here, but quite honest, I mean, that also, falls back on WWE for not giving Rollins a great reign or booking him properly. So again, maybe most of the blame goes back to WWE. But again, if Rollins was having such a great reign as Universal Champion, would they really go out of their way to take the championship right back off of him after 3 or 4 months? Probably not. So that was my mindset watching this and hearing Rollins talk about Brock and how they don't really see eye to eye and all this other stuff, which I'll get more to later. So anyway, he goes back to his school, the wrestling school that he owns, and I think near where he lives in Iowa or somewhere near there, I guess. He graduates his students, says that they still have a lot to learn, but he's giving them all the tools they need to be successful in this business. And he drives home the point that wrestling is all about just having fun. And he's also happy to just influence people. If he can just influence one person, then mission accomplished for him. So he and Becky go to the Performance Center in Orlando, Florida, wherever it's located. In Florida, I don't know if it's Orlando, though. Is it near Full Sail? I don't know. I think it's Orlando. Anyway, so while there, they do a muscle and fitness photo shoot, the both of them, for the cover, I think, of the magazine. They then go from there to Raw Reunion, I think either later that night or the next day. That's where we see the footage that they included in the Raw Reunion edition of WWE The Day Of that I talked about here on the channel early last week, about a week ago, either, I think last Monday or Tuesday. I think last Tuesday. Where Mick Foley went up to Seth while he was at ringside asking him if Mick could go see the Lion King with Seth and Becky, which is just fucking cool. And then Seth does not, take that for granted. He's like, going to see the Lion King with the hardcore legend, oh fuck yeah, like why wouldn't I, He didn't say that, but he's thinking it here. So anyway, he says that, hey, life's pretty crazy, talking about Raw Reunion and, the stuff that he gets to do week to week. He talks to Vince backstage afterward, who jokes that he has to take down the ring after the show. Stone Cold gives Seth some tips about how we could take it to the next level. We don't hear what the tips were. We just kind of caught their conversation midway through. And Stone Cold says, if you could do this, then that'll take you not just to the next level, but the level. And again, I don't know what he's saying, whether it's a charisma thing or a mic skill thing, I don't know. But I thought that interaction was really cool to see. And he says that, hey, even at 33, I'm still checking off boxes on the old bucket list, and dreams are still coming true. And again, all this footage was included on The Day Of with Raw Reunion on the WWE Network just a week ago if you want to check it out. Really cool stuff there with seeing him interact with DX and all that other stuff. We also see him throw out the first pitch, I think at an Orioles game. I don't know what the game was. I missed it. The Orioles game, I think, I think the Orioles game happened, I think, this week. I looked it up on Google, on WWE.com. There was footage of him throwing out the first pitch at an Orioles game earlier this week, but they're still, at this point in the episode of Chronicle, they're still like in late July, early August. So I'm not exactly sure. But he throws out the first pitch at an Orioles game, gets his own customized bobblehead, which WWE has yet to do, so I thought that was pretty cool. Later that night on Raw, he gets attacked by Brock Lesnar, viciously attacked by Brock Lesnar, and he says that Brock Lesnar is all about himself. That's all he is. He's entirely focused on Brock Lesnar. And he admires him professionally, calls him amazing, a great athlete, all this other stuff, but still, he does not see eye to eye with him with how the championship should be treated. And again, part of that is, most of it is on WWE, not really on Brock. I'm sure Brock doesn't give two shits about that fucking tomato title. Credit to Solomonster, but still, I think a lot of it goes to WWE with how they handle him as Universal Champion. If they wanted him to show up more, they would book him to show up more. I think he showed up more as the fucking Mr. Money in the Bank than he has so far as Universal Champion, but whatever. Seth said despite being hurt, despite being brutally attacked by Brock on Raw, he doesn't want to miss live events. There were people who paid to see him, and he doesn't want to disappoint them. He praises his support group. He's really happy to have who he does around him at all times, constantly supporting him, showering him with positivity, all this other stuff. And he says that he does this because he loves it. And he feels like he was just starting to find his footing as Universal Champion until they took the championship off of him at Extreme Rules. He felt like the first month was really just kind of, going through the motions. But he felt like at a certain point, by like month 2, 3, and 4, he started to see the Universal title, like toy belts, the replica championships. He saw those sales pick up immensely. He'd be at the house shows doing his shit. And he would see kids in the front row with the Universal Championship, which you wouldn't really see before because the championship was never on fucking television. But because Seth was champion, he's a fan favorite. He's always on TV. He saw the championship a lot more on, on Raw and at house shows with the kids carrying it in the front row, which is really cool to see. And he says that it's very easy to get lost in all of this and get wrapped up in the crazy schedule and the things that he gets to do day to day. But he wants to get back to why he loves to do this. That's what he wants to get back to now that he has lost the Universal Championship. And he feels like something's got to give. With this SummerSlam match with Brock Lesnar, something has got to give one way or the other. And he feels like it's going to be a big turning point for his career, his character. Whether it's good or bad, we're going to find out. Or I guess we did find out last night. I'm recording this before SummerSlam. So anyway, he says that it's very hard to imagine for him that someone feels the same way about him that he does about someone like Shawn Michaels, who he grew up idolizing, who he grew up wanting to be like. Someone right now feels that way about Seth Rollins. He can't wrap his head around that. It's pretty crazy. It's an incredible feeling, I'm sure, for Seth Rollins to feel that way. But it's also weird for him to feel like he's in the same company of a Stone Cold Steve Austin. Now, Seth Rollins is no fucking Stone Cold Steve Austin, but he is a top guy right now, and he can be included in that conversation of people who have held the torch, who have run with the torch for a while now. Maybe not as much as Stone Cold did, but he's the guy right now in WWE. And, to be in that same category as Stone Cold is something he feels like he will never get used to. He still feels like that small kid from that small town in Iowa years and years and years ago. He's still a fan at heart, and he says that it never goes away. And that closed out this episode of WWE Chronicle, focusing on the architect himself, Seth Rollins. Great episode here. I really love this. And honestly, this is one of the more important episodes of Chronicle because recently on TV and just on social media and in interviews and everything else, Rollins comes across as so fucking unlikable. And it sucks because I'm a big Rollins guy, but so far with how he's been booked, what he said on TV, what he said on Twitter, what he said in interviews, and part of that, I think most of it might rely on Rollins and how he kind of comes across in these interviews and shit that he says and how he says it and whatever. But still, at heart, the guy is very likable. If this special was to be believed, if it was authentic as I think it is, as it was, I think he's a very cool guy, very down to earth. This is the same Rollins I feel like people wanted to rally behind a year ago when he was Intercontinental Champion. We need to see more of this Seth Rollins on WWE TV. If they aired more stuff like this on TV, leading up to a big pay-per-view like SummerSlam, and not just on their network that only a very core group of fans such as myself will check out, I feel like he'd be more well-liked right now by, and maybe not the casual fan. I feel like most casual fans enjoy Seth Rollins, but I'm talking like hardcore fans, just the masses in general. I feel like he'd be more over and more relatable than he currently is. But yeah, that being said, I love this Chronicle. Check it out on the WWE Network, even though SummerSlam has come and gone by this point. It clocks in at around 41 minutes. So it's one of the longer Chronicles in recent memory, but it's well worth sitting through, and it's just great stuff. I've been having some issues with the network the last couple days since the update. Largely, I haven't had many issues, but my shit keeps pausing and not starting. It's just very annoying, so I'm hoping they work out the bugs. If you're having the same issues as I am with the network, and you don't want to, watch the thing on the network because of the problems you're having with the network, there's other ways of finding this episode of Chronicle online, so be sure to seek it out at your leisure. And that's going to do it for me, guys. Be sure to like this video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more content. We'll be back tomorrow. Yes, yet another new episode of WWE Network and Show. We've had like a new one every fucking day since Friday. Tomorrow is no different. I don't think there's anything airing after Raw, if I'm not mistaken. If there is, I'll talk about it Friday on Network and Chill. But at this current point, I very well might review the Stone Cold show airing on USA Network after Raw on Monday. I probably will. Fuck it, why not? Here on Network and Chill this weekend. So stay tuned for that. But anyway, tomorrow here on the show, I'll be talking about the WWE 24, focusing on Kofi Kingston, that aired after SummerSlam on the WWE Network on Sunday night. So stay tuned for that right here on Network and Chill tomorrow. Until then, guys, I'm Graham Giason Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.